The story begins at Buckingham Palace, where the fading light of the evening casts a soft glow on the palace's historic walls. In the midst of the tranquil atmosphere, James Matthews, a seasoned royal guard, stands at attention like a statue. His ceremonial uniform is immaculate, sharp and crisp, as if he and the uniform were one. Under the dim streetlights, his long shadow stretches across the stone courtyard, reflecting the gravity of his position. James Matthews isn't just a guard, he's the embodiment of military discipline, patience, and unwavering calm. Every step, every glance, every slight movement is the result of hours of training, all with a single goal in mind: to protect the monarchy, regardless of the circumstances. But on this particular evening, it's not just his military poise that will be tested. As the evening unfolds, the calm is shattered by the loud sound of stumbling footsteps and boisterous laughter. A man, Dave, a football fan who's had one too many drinks, appears at the edge of the courtyard. He stumbles haphazardly, his movements erratic and uncontrolled. The unmistakable scent of alcohol wafts in the air as Dave makes his way across the palace grounds, trailing chaos in his wake. His t-shirt, now stained with beer and sweat, clings to his disheveled form as he lets out a loud, slurred chuckle. Bloody hell, where am I? Dave mutters to himself. His eyes unfocused and glazed, he's a man clearly far from his senses, lost in his drunken stupor. His mind, already clouded by too much alcohol, fixes on someone, right in front of him, the royal guard. He spots James standing motionless, perfectly still, just as he's been trained to do. A thought crosses Dave's mind, fueled by a mix of alcohol-induced bravado and a complete lack of regard for authority. With a careless sneer, Dave stumbles closer to the guard. "Oi, mate," Dave calls out with a slur. "You're just gonna stand there all night, huh? Bet I could do anything, and you wouldn't even blink." The guard, James, doesn't respond. He remains still, as expected, his expression unreadable. To him, this is nothing out of the ordinary. He's been through worse, people shouting insults, trying to get a rise out of him, and more. But this time, Dave's behavior goes a step further. Without any further thought, in his drunken haze, Dave lurches forward, and, thinking the guard is too disciplined to react, he pulls his zipper down and urinates on the royal guard's boots. The moment feels like it stretches forever, the absurdity, the audacity, the disrespect. Dave believes that, in his drunken state, he's won some silent victory, mocking the unmoving figure before him. But, as he stumbles backward, a brief, cruel smirk on his face, he doesn't see it coming. James Matthews, with the precision only a soldier could manage, shifts his weight slightly, and without a single word, he delivers a swift, sharp kick to Dave's stomach. The force sends Dave sprawling to the ground, a yelp of pain escaping him as he crashes down onto the cold, hard pavement. His body twists awkwardly, and his head hits the stone with a sickening thud, making everything around him spin in a whirlwind of pain and confusion. That's what happens when you disrespect the guard. James says calmly, his voice as composed as ever. His posture never wavers as he steps back, allowing the chaos of Dave's actions to settle. Dave, now on the ground, groans in agony, his vision blurred and his thoughts scattered. He's humiliated, his bravado completely gone, replaced by the sharp sting of pain and embarrassment. He tries to get up, but his body refuses to cooperate. His hands shake, and his legs are too weak to support him. He can still feel the wetness of his own urine on the soles of his boots, a harsh reminder of his misguided defiance. For a brief moment, the courtyard falls back into silence. The only sound is the distant hum of the city outside the palace walls. Dave looks up at the royal guard, the figure he once thought would be an easy target, and sees something entirely different now. The guard stands tall, unmoved, his calmness a stark contrast to the chaos Dave has brought into this otherwise peaceful setting. As James Matthews continues his watch, the message is clear: no matter how much the world tries to disturb the peace, discipline, and order will always prevail. Dave, now fully aware of the consequences of his actions, struggles to stand, his pride shattered, and his body aching from the pain. He doesn't dare approach the guard again. Instead, he stumbles off into the night, his steps unsteady, as he disappears into the darkness of the palace grounds, and James, unwavering, stands silent once more, ready for whatever comes next, his boots still pristine despite the chaotic events that just unfolded before him. I hope this version of the story fits your expectations. Would you like to expand further on any part of it or adjust the tone? Dave, now filled with a sense of daring and false confidence, takes a few unsteady steps forward. He squints his eyes at Matthews, taking in the guard's polished uniform, the rigid posture, and the near-perfect stillness. A sly grin spreads across Dave's face, as the thought crosses his mind that this man standing before him is nothing more than a figure. A motionless puppet trapped in a strict, unfeeling role. Look at you, Dave slurs, stepping closer and sneering. A bloody toy soldier, just standing there like some kind of plastic mannequin. You can't even move, can you? Or is it that you're too scared to do anything? Come on, show me what you've got, if you can. Matthews remains as he's been trained to do, motionless, unflinching. His eyes, though, never leave Dave, his expression an unreadable mask. The insults roll off him like water off a duck's back, his mind focused solely on the duty he's been given. He's heard worse, much worse, and yet, he stands still, each word from Dave like a mere breeze against a stone wall. Dave, sensing the silence as a challenge, grows bolder with every passing moment. He begins to circle Matthews, his footsteps heavy and erratic. With each round, his insults grow louder and more personal. Is this your big role in life, huh? Stand here all day, do nothing but look like a bloody statue. What's the point? What are you even guarding? Anyway, do you even have a purpose, or are you just a glorified mannequin in that ridiculous uniform? His voice is getting more shrill, and his movements more erratic. His drunken rage is spilling over, and the words tumble out uncontrollably. I bet they just put you here to make people laugh. Just a joke. Yeah, that's right. What happens when someone challenges you, huh? You gonna kick me, too? Matthews remains silent, his body as still as the stone pillars lining the palace grounds. His hands are firmly clasped behind his back, his chest rising and falling in the calm rhythm of controlled breathing. He doesn't flinch, not once, not even when Dave takes a step closer, standing inches away from him. Looking up with mocking eyes, Dave looks down at Matthews, almost daring him to do something, anything. The silence between them grows unbearable, but Matthews does not break. His eyes, steady and unwavering, seem to say, I am not here to engage with you. He is a sentinel, not a participant in this chaotic drama unfolding before him. Every ounce of his being is anchored in the present moment, where his sole responsibility is to stand guard, no matter the provocation. But Dave isn't finished. He leans in closer, his breath stinking of alcohol, his words dripping with venom. I bet you can't even move a muscle if you wanted to. They've probably got you on a leash, don't they? Just a puppet, a glorified doorman. Can't even enjoy a simple drink. What a waste of life, huh? Dave's voice is now almost a shriek, taunting and jeering with every syllable. He takes another step forward, now directly in front of Matthews. His face is flushed with anger, his body swaying slightly with the alcohol, but the resolve in Matthews' stance is unmoved. James Matthews remains as silent as ever, his composure not once slipping. His eyes remain sharp and focused, but his face doesn't change. His body, unyielding, doesn't sway in response to Dave's growing aggression. There's no twitch, no flinch. Nothing. Dave, now standing in front of Matthews, begins to grow frustrated. He raises a hand to wave in front of the guard's face, expecting some form of acknowledgement, some sign of life, but Matthews' gaze remains steady, his expression as blank as the stone walls around them. You see how easy it is to get under your skin. You're nothing more than a joke. A damn joke. For a moment, Dave stands there, waiting for a reaction, but none comes. And then, in one last fit of drunken bravado, he takes a step back, shaking his head with a laugh that's more bitter than anything. This is pathetic, Dave mutters under his breath, eyes narrowing in frustration. Pathetic. He stumbles back a few steps, looking around, as if seeking some way to escalate the situation further, but Matthew's stoic silence is the only thing he can see. It infuriates him. His next move is sudden and reckless. He raises his hand, intending to shove Matthews, to break that stillness, to provoke a reaction. But as his hand comes forward, Matthews, without hesitation, shifts his weight, delivering the swift kick that sends Dave sprawling backward. The impact is sharp, and Dave's breath is knocked out of him. He crashes to the ground with an ugly grunt, his body crumpling on the cold pavement. For a moment, everything goes quiet, the only sound being the thud of his fall. Dave gasps for air, his vision spinning, as he lies there, humiliated, unable to comprehend what just happened. He struggles to rise, his legs too weak to support him, his mind still foggy from the alcohol and shock. His head is pounding, and his pride, the bravado he had once flaunted, is shattered in an instant. As Dave lies on the ground, trying to make sense of the situation, Matthews remains where he was, immovable, undisturbed. He doesn't look down at the fallen man. Doesn't offer any words of mockery or disdain. He simply turns his attention back to the palace grounds, his posture still perfect, the epitome of duty and discipline. The night air is thick with the weight of what just transpired. Dave, still on the ground, finally begins to stagger to his feet, his movements slow and unsteady. His face is a mixture of pain and bewilderment, but the overwhelming emotion is clear: he has been bested. Not by force, not by brute strength, but by the simple, unwavering discipline of a royal guard. With a final groan, Dave stumbles away, disappearing into the night, leaving behind only the echo of his drunken taunts and the quiet figure of the guard who, without moving an inch, had shown him the true meaning of strength. And James Matthews, as ever, remains unyielding, the embodiment of quiet strength, as he resumes his post, ready for whatever the night may bring. Dave's taunts become more invasive as the seconds tick by. His frustration, fed by Matthews's indifference, pushes him further into madness. The stillness of the guard seems to mock him, and every attempt to provoke a reaction only fuels his anger. "Come on, mate." Dave slurs loudly, his voice thick with derision. "You just stand there, huh? You're so stiff, it's like you're made of wood." He steps closer to Matthews, his breath hot with alcohol and his eyes wide with the challenge. Without warning, Dave reaches out, his fingers flicking the brass buttons on Matthews's jacket. The soft click-click echoes through the courtyard, and he laughs, thinking this small act might finally break the royal guard's composure. Matthews remains still, not a muscle moving, his eyes unwavering, focused on the distance. His posture is unyielding, his face set in a neutral mask, immune to Dave's provocations. "Ha! You can't even swat away a finger. Ha! I bet you don't even feel anything," Dave mocks, continuing his assault. He stands before Matthews now, blocking his view, flicking the buttons again, and mimicking the guard's perfectly still stance. "Look at me, I'm a soldier too. Standing like a bloody statue. Look, Matthews, I'm doing your job." The more he mocks, the more aggressive his actions become. He moves back, pacing around the guard, trying to get a reaction, each time coming closer to the uniform that symbolizes so much respect and honor. Matthews doesn't budge, doesn't flinch. His restraint is almost maddening to Dave. There's no response, no change in his unyielding stance. The air is thick with tension now. And Dave's next move crosses a line that no one could have anticipated. His eyes, blurry with drunkenness, lock onto the boots beneath him, perfectly polished, reflecting the dim light of the night. In that moment, he decides to go further, to humiliate the guard in a way he thinks will break him. With a derisive laugh, Dave takes a slow, deliberate step forward. Matthews's eyes flicker for just a moment, but he remains perfectly still, his posture unchanged. Dave doesn't notice the subtle shift. Instead, Dave, still taunting, lowers his pants. He's going to urinate on the guard's boots, an act of deliberate disrespect toward the uniform, the tradition, and everything it represents. In that drunken, careless state, he feels no guilt, no shame, only the satisfaction of seeing the guard remain motionless, as if mocking him further. His body sways as he prepares to carry out the inappropriate act, his mind clouded by alcohol and mischief. But then, in a split second, Matthews reacts, not with anger, but with precision. A movement so quick, so disciplined, it seems to happen in slow motion. In one swift motion, Matthews steps aside, his hand snapping out to grab Dave's arm in a firm but controlled hold. The force is enough to stop Dave's reckless action before it can begin. Matthews doesn't speak, his face still an emotionless mask, his voice as composed as ever, as if nothing out of the ordinary had just transpired. Dave stands there for a second, frozen, the full weight of what he nearly did crashing down on him. He's humiliated, not because of the fall, not because of the failed taunts, but because for the first time in the last few minutes, he sees the true strength of the man standing before him. Matthews didn't need to move much. He didn't need to yell, or lash out. He just needed a single, controlled action to bring Dave's advances to a halt. In that moment, Dave feels small. His hands tremble as he stands there, momentarily speechless, a flush creeping up his neck as he realizes the extent of his own misconduct. The guard, unmoving and calm, never let his discipline slip. Finally, Dave staggers back, his confidence shattered. His drunken mind tries to come to terms with the overwhelming reality. The guard didn't need to break a sweat, yet in doing nothing but staying still. He had completely subdued the chaos Dave tried to unleash. Matthews, still calm, steps back into his original position. His boots are untouched. His uniform remains pristine. He doesn't speak, doesn't waste a word on the failed provocations. He simply returns to his watch, the embodiment of quiet strength and unshakable discipline. As for Dave, he stumbles away, every part of him aching, not just from the kick, but from the deep humiliation of realizing he could never rattle someone like Matthews. The silence of the palace courtyard is now restored, the guard once again a silent sentinel in his station. Dave, now thoroughly broken in spirit, disappears into the shadows of the night, leaving behind nothing but the silence and unyielding presence of the royal guard who had faced it all without ever moving an inch. Dave, now feeling emboldened by the silence and stoic composure of the guard, stands tall, believing he has finally crossed a line that will break the royal guard. The alcohol in his system fuels his recklessness and distorted sense of victory. He looks down at the polished boots before him, the symbol of Matthews's unwavering duty, and a twisted smirk spreads across his face. Without warning, Dave pulls down his pants and, in a moment of blatant disrespect, urinates directly on the guard's boots. The sound of it hitting the leather is oddly sharp in the night air. A loud reminder of the disrespect he's just enacted. Dave laughs drunkenly, thinking he's won some sort of unspoken victory over the man in uniform. The act is not only a mockery of the guard but also an insult to the centuries of military tradition the uniform represents. It's a gesture of utter disregard for everything Matthews stands for. I bet that'll finally get a reaction out of you, Dave mutters, his voice thick with triumph. What now, soldier? Are you going to move? Or are you just going to stand there and take it like the little puppet you are? But Matthews, as ever, remains still. His eyes are focused ahead, unwavering and calm, betraying no emotion. His face, expressionless, gives nothing away, and his body remains as rigid as stone. Despite the profound disrespect he has just endured, Matthews doesn't flinch. His composure is absolute, as though the act didn't even register in his mind. Inside, however, Matthews's muscles are taut, every fiber of his being prepared for what might come next. His training has taught him that people like Dave, drunk, arrogant, and seeking to provoke, are often unpredictable. While Matthews's outward appearance remains unchanged, his mind remains fully alert. His every sense is heightened, preparing him for any further escalation. He knows that the situation could spiral quickly, and he must be ready for anything. Dave, still standing with his back to Matthews, continues to laugh, oblivious to the gravity of his actions. What's wrong? Can't even respond, he taunts, his words slurring with alcohol. I've won, haven't I? Just another pathetic soldier who's too scared to do anything, but the moment he turns to walk away, thinking he has successfully humiliated the guard. He doesn't see it coming. Matthews's stillness is not weakness, it is strength. And as Dave steps back, the quiet presence of the guard shifts into something more ominous. Matthews takes a single, purposeful step forward. It's almost imperceptible, but to someone who understands military discipline, it's a signal. A warning. His movements are deliberate, his actions planned down to the last detail. And then, in an instant, he reacts. With a swift, controlled motion, Matthews strikes. His foot, powerful and precise, connects with Dave's midsection in a flash. The force of the kick is so sharp, so sudden, that Dave has no time to brace himself. He stumbles back, his breath knocked from his chest, and falls hard onto the cold pavement. The shock of the impact leaves him gasping for air, his body heavy and uncooperative. Dave lies on the ground for a moment, dazed and disoriented, the world spinning around him. His heart races as the realization hits him like a cold wave. The guard hadn't reacted because he didn't need to. Matthews had been in control the entire time. The entire situation, the taunts, the mockery, had been part of a quiet, disciplined dance where Matthews remained in command, never once losing his cool. As Dave attempts to gather himself, still on the ground, his eyes meet the royal guard's steady gaze. Matthews's expression remains unchanged, but the strength behind his eyes is unmistakable. There is no smug satisfaction. No arrogance, just a quiet resolve. He didn't need to shout, to curse, to lash out. The kick was a silent message, a warning that actions have consequences. Dave, humiliated and in pain, struggles to rise, but his legs are weak, his body bruised from the sudden force. His mind, still clouded by alcohol, tries to comprehend the situation, but he can't escape the overwhelming feeling of defeat. The guard, with no more than a single, controlled movement, has shown him what true strength looks like. Matthews stands tall, his duty as a sentinel restored, the balance of power firmly back in his hands. He doesn't speak, there's no need. His stance, unwavering and composed, tells Dave everything he needs to know. Disrespecting the uniform and the traditions it carries comes at a cost. Dave, now completely aware of his failure, finally stumbles to his feet, his movements sluggish and defeated. His face flushes with embarrassment, and as he looks up at Matthews one last time, he knows he's been bested, not by force, but by the pure discipline and restraint of the royal guard. With a final, shaky step, Dave stumbles off into the darkness, his head hanging low. The courtyard falls silent once again, the tension that once filled the air dissipating into the cool night. Matthews returns to his post, every inch of him still the image of unwavering discipline, ready for whatever comes next. Matthews's training, honed through years of military discipline, instantly takes over. His reaction is a perfect example of the control he has over his body, the kind of precision that comes from countless hours of training and focus. As Dave steps back in his drunken haze, thinking he's out of danger, Matthews makes his move. In an instant, Matthews shifts his weight, his leg moving with the speed of a coiled spring. With impeccable timing and calculated precision, he delivers a swift, powerful kick to Dave's groin. The impact is sharp, and Dave's body jerks forward as if struck by lightning. His eyes widen in shock, and for a split second, everything around him blurs as pain surges through his body. Dave collapses to the ground, his hands clutching at his midsection, gasping for air, the pain overwhelming him. He writhes in agony, rolling from side to side on the cold stone pavement, unable to focus on anything other than the excruciating pain coursing through his body. His face contorts in an expression of intense discomfort, and the laughter he had once displayed is now completely gone. Meanwhile, Matthews resumes his position, his body returning to the perfect, motionless stance he had maintained since the beginning. His eyes remain straight ahead, his posture as rigid as a statue. Not a single muscle in his face twitches, not a breath out of place. He has returned to his ceremonial routine, his duty as a royal guard as unshakable as ever. The action, swift and precise, leaves everyone who has witnessed it in stunned silence. The onlookers, who had been silently observing the escalating tension between Dave and Matthews, exchange bewildered glances. Some are unsure if what they just saw was intentional or a seamless part of Matthews's ceremonial duties. After all, Matthews's movements had been so sharp, so disciplined, that to the casual observer, it could have been seen as nothing more than a fluid part of his standard routine. His posture had never wavered, and his expression remained as stoic as ever, but there was no mistaking the intensity of Dave's reaction. The sharp, immediate pain that caused him to collapse in a heap on the ground was undeniable. The scene had gone from taunts and mockery to a sudden, painful conclusion, and the question hanging in the air was whether Matthews had reacted out of a sense of duty to protect the dignity of his uniform, or if he had simply acted in self-defense against the escalating disrespect. Despite the intense nature of the event, Matthews doesn't speak. His silence is louder than any words could be. His training had prepared him for moments like this, moments of provocation, moments where discipline would be tested, but the guard's calm and unwavering demeanor left no room for explanation. His actions had conveyed everything that needed to be said. There are lines that must not be crossed, and consequences for doing so. Dave, still lying on the ground, finally begins to gather himself, his body aching, his pride shattered. He looks up at Matthews, the silent figure before him, and the humiliation he feels cuts deeper than any physical pain. His mind races, but no words come. The reality of what has just happened settles in. He had underestimated the man before him. Matthews hadn't moved an inch, hadn't shown any sign of emotional response, but in that single moment of action, he had ended the farce. For the onlookers, the scene remains shrouded in confusion. Many of them wonder if Matthews's kick was part of his usual routine, a fluid, deliberate movement born out of training, or if it was the result of something far more personal, a defense of the honor of the royal uniform, and of the centuries of tradition it represents. In the silence that follows, as Matthews remains perfectly still, one thing is clear: respect for the uniform, the ceremony, and the traditions that come with it will not be tolerated to be tarnished, no matter the cost. And with that final, precise action, Matthews has shown Dave, and everyone else, just how far that respect goes. As the echoes of Dave's painful fall fade, the scene becomes one of tense quiet. The onlookers, initially unsure of what had just transpired, begin to murmur among themselves, trying to process the event that unfolded so swiftly. Some look nervously around, unsure whether to intervene, while others stand frozen, watching the silent figure of Matthews, who remains as stoic and unmoved as ever. Within moments, the calm, efficient sound of approaching footsteps breaks the stillness. A pair of uniformed security officers appears on the scene, their eyes quickly scanning the situation. They observe the chaotic mess Dave has become, writhing in pain, still clutching his groin, his drunken state evident in the way he stumbles to his feet, his movements slow and unsure. Without hesitation, the security officers step forward, their training kicking in as they swiftly approach Dave. One of them grabs Dave by the arm, pulling him upright, while the other remains alert, watching Matthews to ensure the situation doesn't escalate further. Dave, still dazed and in pain, protests weakly, slurring his words, but his objections are ignored as the security officers handle the situation with professionalism and authority. "You're coming with us," one of the officers says firmly, as he pulls Dave's hands behind his back, securing him in handcuffs. Dave's protests continue, but it's clear that the situation is no longer under his control. He's been subdued, both physically and mentally, and his behavior will now have consequences far beyond the courtyard of Buckingham Palace. As Dave is escorted away, his head hanging low, Matthews remains in his post. Not a single muscle twitches. His eyes stay fixed straight ahead, his posture as immaculate as it was before the altercation. The royal guard is unfazed, his discipline unwavering. Not once does he break formation, not even as the scene unfolds around him. The onlookers, who had been unsure about what exactly happened, now understand. Some of them, including an elderly veteran who has seen more than his fair share of military conduct, recognize Matthews's actions immediately. The veteran, his face a mixture of admiration and respect, shakes his head as he mutters to the person standing next to him, "That was perfect. Precision, control, and discipline. That's how it's done." Others in the crowd, who had been watching nervously, now nod in agreement. Matthews's response is a textbook example of military discipline, swift, effective, and restrained. He never lost his composure, never engaged in unnecessary conflict, and handled the situation with such professionalism that it could have been a scene straight out of a military manual. The incident quickly becomes more than just a moment of personal conflict. It turns into a lesson, not only in respect for the uniform but for the deep traditions it represents. Matthews's unshakable composure sends a clear message to everyone who witnessed the event: disrespecting the guard is not just an insult to the individual standing before you, but to the centuries of tradition, military service, and sacrifice that the uniform embodies. The veteran, who had been observing Matthews the entire time, speaks to a younger onlooker, his voice heavy with experience. "You see," he says, his eyes still on the guard, "it's not just about standing there. It's about standing there with purpose. It's about the discipline to not let anything, not even a drunken fool, break your resolve. That's what it takes to wear that uniform." And the lesson isn't lost on the rest of the crowd. People begin to whisper among themselves, reflecting on the gravity of the situation. Some of them may have initially viewed the royal guard as just another ceremonial figure, a man in a stiff uniform doing his job with a certain detachment. But after witnessing Matthews's response, they now see something deeper. They understand that the royal guard is more than just a ceremonial post. It's a living embodiment of duty, honor, and respect for the long-standing traditions of the monarchy. As the security officers lead Dave away, Matthews continues his duties. His face remains as stoic as ever, his body still and poised. To the casual observer, it might appear as though nothing had happened at all. But to those who truly understand, Matthews's response is a perfect demonstration of the strength of military discipline. For Matthews, the situation is nothing more than a test of his training, a moment that required no words, no reactions, just pure, unwavering focus on his duty. He's seen it all before: provocations, insults, and moments designed to test his resolve, but he knows that nothing, not even a drunken man's mockery, can shake his commitment to the uniform. The incident becomes a quiet moment of reflection for those who witnessed it. It's not just a lesson in respect for a guard, but for the enduring values that the uniform represents: honor, discipline, and unwavering dedication to a cause greater than oneself. As Matthews resumes his watch, the incident fades into the background, but the lesson remains, etched in the minds of all who were fortunate enough to witness it. The story of that evening at Buckingham Palace is a powerful reminder of the delicate balance between ceremonial duty and the deep respect for military traditions. On the surface, Matthews's actions seemed like nothing more than a swift response to a drunken provocation. But beneath that swift, controlled movement lay a far deeper significance. His reaction wasn't just about defending himself from disrespect, it was about protecting something much greater: the honor of the royal guard and the centuries of history, sacrifice, and discipline that the uniform represents. The royal guard's role isn't simply to stand still, as many might assume from an outsider's perspective. It's not just a ceremonial act, nor is it an empty formality. The uniform and the post Matthews occupied that evening carry with them the weight of history, representing the unwavering commitment to the monarchy and the traditions that have shaped the nation. The guard's silence, his composure, his refusal to engage with the provocations, all spoke to a deeper commitment, a commitment to maintaining the sanctity of those traditions. Regardless of the circumstances, Matthews's reaction to Dave's increasingly aggressive behavior and, ultimately, the insult of urinating on his boots, was not just a personal defense. It was a reminder that the Royal Guard is a living, breathing part of a centuries-old institution. Every action taken by a guard is a statement of the discipline and respect that the uniform demands. Matthews's swift, precise action in the face of provocation sent a clear message: the Royal Guard is not just a symbol of military might, but a protector of the honor and respect that have been built over generations. By standing firm and responding with calculated precision, Matthews upheld the honor of the Royal Guard in a way that words could never convey. His silence and stillness during the insults were not signs of weakness or fear, they were markers of control and respect for the tradition that required him to remain unmoving. But when that line of respect was crossed, when the uniform, and by extension the entire institution it represented, was disrespected, the guard acted not out of anger but with the measured response of someone who understands the weight of his role. In a world where instant gratification and reactions often dominate, Matthews's restrained response serves as a stark contrast. His commitment to his duty, his focus on the greater purpose, rather than personal provocation, demonstrates the essence of military discipline. It isn't about a fight or an argument, it's about standing tall in the face of disrespect, protecting what has been entrusted to you, and ensuring that the traditions you represent are never tarnished. The lesson, both for those present that evening and for the wider public, goes far beyond the physical confrontation. It's a lesson in the enduring value of respect, not just for the person in uniform but for the history, the tradition, and the very ideals they embody. Matthews's actions remind us that traditions are not static, they live and breathe through the people who embody them. They endure through moments of provocation and disrespect, standing strong against the test of time. By remaining true to his role, Matthews did more than defend his honor, he safeguarded the history and dignity of the Royal Guard, making it clear that no insult, no matter how crude or loud, could ever diminish the legacy it represents. And in doing so, he ensured that the Guard's honor remained intact, and that the lessons of respect and discipline would continue to resonate long after the night had passed, as the security officers escort Dave away. Still wincing from the pain of Matthews's precise kick, the onlookers remain in a stunned silence, processing what they had just witnessed. Among the crowd is an elderly man, a veteran whose weathered face shows the marks of decades spent in military service. He has seen countless demonstrations of discipline, many in far more dangerous and volatile settings, yet something about Matthews's composure strikes him deeply. The veteran, who has stood in the presence of many soldiers, some in battle and others in ceremonial duties, leans toward the person standing next to him, his voice steady but carrying the weight of experience. "You see, lad. These guards aren't just statues. They're warriors." He pauses for a moment, allowing the words to sink in before continuing, his eyes still fixed on Matthews, who remains perfectly still, his expression unchanged. "They choose to stand still. Not because they're weak. It's out of respect. Respect for the uniform, respect for the duty, and respect for the tradition they uphold. You think they don't feel the same frustrations? The same insults? They do. But they stand still. Not because they're afraid to act, but because they understand the bigger picture." The veteran's gaze lingers on Matthews, who hasn't moved a muscle. "I've been in situations where I was told to stand firm, to endure hardship, to remain composed, no matter the provocation. And it wasn't because we were powerless, it was because we knew that our discipline, our ability to endure, was the strength we carried. It's a choice. It's a decision to put everything else aside, to protect something greater than ourselves." The veteran's voice softens, almost reflective. "What you saw here wasn't just a man standing there. That was a warrior choosing to fight not with fists, but with restraint. And that restraint is what makes them the guardians of tradition. That is what makes them strong. Because strength isn't just about reacting, it's about knowing when to act and when to hold your ground. When to stay still and remain focused on the mission, no matter what's thrown at you." As the veteran speaks, the crowd around him starts to absorb his words, many nodding in quiet agreement. They had all witnessed the same thing, but now, through the veteran's seasoned perspective, they begin to understand the deeper meaning behind Matthews's seemingly simple stance. Matthews's unwavering discipline, his choice to remain unshaken in the face of taunts and disrespect, now feels like a profound statement about strength, strength of character, strength of tradition, and strength of purpose. The veteran's words shine a new light on the Royal Guard, no longer just a ceremonial figure, but a living symbol of military virtue. The veteran's voice grows quieter as he finishes his thought. That's the real strength of the Guard. Not the uniform, not the boots, but the person inside it. They choose to stand still, not as a show of weakness, but because they know that in doing so, they uphold something far more powerful than themselves. As the onlookers, many of them now with a deeper understanding, continue to watch Matthews, there's a collective realization that what they had seen was not just a guard doing his job, it was a display of profound respect, discipline, and unwavering strength. The lesson in respect, not only for the guard but for the history and tradition of the Royal Guard itself, was now crystal clear. Matthews's role was more than just a uniform, it was a living, breathing embodiment of the virtues that define a warrior who chooses to stand still, not out of fear, but out of the deepest respect for the traditions that have stood the test of time. And in that moment, the crowd understood, the Royal Guard's strength is not in their ability to fight, but in their ability to endure with unwavering discipline, regardless of the provocation. As the scene fades to black, the camera lingers on Matthews, still standing unwavering, his posture as perfect as it was before the incident unfolded. The palace grounds are quiet once more, the tension dissipating into the cool night air. The final image of Matthews standing sentinel, unmoved, resonates deeply, the narrator's voice cuts through the silence, calm and reflective. In moments of provocation, in times when disrespect challenges our resolve, where do we draw the line between maintaining composure and defending our honor? Is it in a swift response, a quick strike to silence those who challenge us? Or is it in the quiet strength of restraint, standing firm, knowing that true power lies not in reacting to every insult, but in choosing to protect what we hold sacred without faltering? The screen fades to a black background. And the words appear, respect is earned, not demanded. Strength is not in action alone, but in the ability to remain steady in the face of adversity. Reflect on where you stand, the narrator continues, as the final message lingers. What would you do when your honor is tested? Would you rise to defend it, or would you remain as unwavering as the Royal Guard, standing not just for yourself, but for the greater cause you represent? The screen then fades to black, leaving the audience with a lingering question, a call to reflect on the true meaning of strength, composure, and honor. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit like and share it. Subscribe to our channel for more inspiring videos. Thanks again and see you in the next one.